getting on. Sat by the fireside, pondering on. Picture book, pictures of your mama, taken by your papa a long time ago. Picture book of people with each other to prove they love each other a long time ago. Picture book, picture book.
Like the vintage feel as we open things up, a Friday afternoon here at Gulfstream Park. Partly sunny, a little bit cloudy outside, and quite muggy on this June the 5th as we take that live look in at about 11:05 a.m. and get set for a 9-race card. Now, for the first time in what feels like a very long time, and we're happy about this, it is not raining outside. A little bit of a reprieve from the heavy precipitation we have had here in what seems like over the last month or so at Gulfstream Park. But as we had said and mentioned on Wednesday, it won't dampen our spirits. Rain or shine, we do what we do, and we certainly have business to take care of on this June the 5th. Jason Blewett joining all of you. Good to see you with us, everybody, here on this live Friday edition of Gulfstream Park today. And let's bring in the man who always has his ear close to the ground here in Hallandale Beach, the one and only Ron Nicoletti. Ronnie, set downstairs looks great, and we will have horses with us all day long on the air and 9 races.
Yeah, boy, I'm glad to see the horses come out here in the walking ring. 9 races. Now, we did have some rain yesterday. We had rain forever, as you just said. So races 1, 3, and 4 will be off the turf, but the rest are on this afternoon, and that turf course is listed as good.
Absolutely. 2 races, in fact, on the turf. That'll start in race number 6. Now, the band is absolutely back together, and it's been neat watching, and certainly a big relief watching other tracks and states and sister tracks of ours come back online. And I think that hits a crescendo today in a real apex looking at the Stronach 5 sequence. It's been a very long time. Speaking of the rainy weather that we've had, boy, a couple of months and then some since we had our last 100K Stronach 5 in the mix. You know it, Ronnie. One bet, you know the rules, 12% takeout, and lots of action coming your way beginning at about 3:50 Eastern.
Yeah, we got a race from Gulfstream Park, our final race of the afternoon, leg B in that sequence. And as you mentioned, a great 12% takeout, $100,000 guaranteed. Glad to see the Stronach 5 back.
Now, you guys worked on an all-star ticket. Ronnie, Stan Salter from Laurel, Matt Dinnerman from Golden Gate, and Frank Miramati out at the Great Race Place. Ronnie, you're holding down the fort in leg B, that second leg at Gulfstream Park in our Friday nightcap. 3 deep in what is a very challenging race as the second leg in that all-star ticket.
Yeah, I went 1, 3, and 7 in there. I wanted to use the 9, but we got to keep that ticket under $100. $72 goes my man Stanton Salter. He always swings for the fences. He's got that single in the third leg at Laurel Park. He's going with the 4 in their race number 8.
And that horse 9-2 on the morning line, that is not like a 3-5, 5-horse field sort of lead pipe cinch. He's got a 9-2 shot named Joe's Bold Cat singled in that 8th race this afternoon at Laurel Park. Our man Stan, again, doing his thing up in Maryland. They've got a great team up there, obviously led by Dave Rodman up in the booth. We move forward, though, collectively, and not only with the Stronach 5 coming down the pike. We've got our 9 races locally, and that coincides, at least as far as the 12:05 Eastern start time, with the first leg in our early pick 5, and I'm going to take a shot right off the bat. A ticket I knew going in that I wanted to build around in race number 3. I see one true dirt horse in that off-the-turf third race. Her name is Tis Possible Dear. She is a hard hitter, real blue-collar 5-year-old mare who's a 5-time winner. And I think turf horses are playing her game this afternoon. And knowing her presence and what she was facing, at least on paper, again, I constructed this play around her for an $18 total that right off the bat has 2 very tricky races, including that second race, Ronnie. Depending upon your stance there, I might be a little light, but no matter who you like, that looks like a really competitive-looking Florida-bred maiden special weight for the 2-year-olds at 5 furlongs.
Yeah, got some really nicely bred horses in that race. I did use the 5 Bailey on top, but I got the 1 Pepe and Carson City Kid on my ticket. So maybe you could have added one more there. That's the beauty of this. This is your template. You guys could add or subtract the way you see fit for the early pick 5.
268 for me to start. I struggled with this upcoming first race, not only obviously on the dirt, as races 1, 3, and 4 are on this June the 5th, but you combine the just the surface of being on the main track and add on the 1 mile distance. And I think this is going to be a challenging race for this cast of maiden claimers, these $16,000 to $14,000 maiden claimers. And in the end, I see you and I both landed on the same horse in the 2 Light Fury, who at least, although he didn't knock your socks off last time out in a sloppy track race on May 10th, at least he ran. In context to this field, I think that mile race was actually a fair effort out of him, maybe above average for the level in a spot like this.
Yeah, I'm going to drop to the 16 level today after showing that speed and weakening. That was going that mile against those 25 maidens. That was on the sealed sloppy track. We're dealing with a fast track this afternoon. And if you're not aware, since we've come back with our new schedule on Wednesday, these mile and the 16 turf races now revert back to a mile, a 1-turn mile on the main track, and I like that they did that. So just if you're not aware, you're just joining us this week, make sure you mark that down and know that these races will be running 8 furlongs. Yeah, and I just thought that performance with Light Fury was the one to beat. Yeah, you know, I kept the 9 on my ticket, Mountain Breeze, who's now in the Joe Orsino barn. If you go back 2 starts, he had that trouble starting 6. That was that race against those 16 maidens. It was moved from the lawn. It was on the main track. So I thought maybe with a clean trip, this horse could be somewhere on the ticket.
We'll see. I argued going into his last race on May 21st, which again was rained off the grass, and I felt as though then, as I probably do now, maybe I'm not as sure as this opinion that I'm about to say, but he's certainly a top 2, if not the most talented horse in the race. Can he do it, though, on the dirt? His effort 2 back against Chico Joe was legitimately good, but that was on the turf. We've got veteran trainer Alfredo Velasquez in the mix with the 8. Inacceptable, who's got Nick Juarez riding. That horse looks to me dangerous for 16. And I want to give a quick pop to the 6 Perfect Enough, who's had a gazillion chances, but did pull what I think and surmise was a dead rail trip in the slop last time out on May 10th. That's already been a day that's produced a couple of next out winners, not from that race per se, but horses like Yodele Ihu and Union Lane, who won here last week, and both had inside trips over that sloppy track on May the 10th. Let's move on to the second, my friend. We'll kickstart Friday's early pick 4 on the dirt with a 5 furlong Florida bred maiden special weight for 2-year-olds. And the real trait I like about this race, Ronnie, is you've got representation from 3 different last out Gulfstream Park races, be it the hyper-focus race with the 1 Pepe, looking at the Just Right Mike field with Carson City Kid and Bailey, and even the famous Gent race that he comes out of against Swaggy George. So I'm not sure at this point, do you have a favorite race or a field one of these horses is coming out of that you say, oh, that was a killer field and I'm going to want to back everybody out of that race? I don't in this spot, and I think we'll get some more clues this afternoon.
Yeah, exactly right. I really couldn't. There's nothing really that jumps off the page. Usually you see your horse say, boy, that one, we're going to see this one in the Sire Stakes a little down the road. Not the case with either Carson City Kid or Pepe in here. So we'll see how this race plays out this afternoon. I did go with the 5 Bailey on top of my ticket, but I know you wanted to show some races in here before we get to my 5, the Bailey.
Yeah, we can just segue into Bailey, but
Right.
first we'll get to Mike Yates' horse in the 1 Pepe, who just to me seems like a logical contender. He's already got 2 races under his belt, having started on April 17th, and this is the effort on May 9th, where he warded up. He put the Wesley Ward horse down on the rail, Breakthrough, who was the first starter for Nyquist. He put him away after that duel, but it's the Rapoli-Pletcher horse in the end in Hyperfocus, who just got a good trip and cut him down. A major player, and no reason to think, Ronnie, with his speed, that he wouldn't run well yet again from the inside.
Yeah, and the most accomplished runner in the field, as you mentioned. He finished that second, going 4.5. So the stretch out to 5, I think, is going to be a positive for this horse this afternoon.
Now, your horse, Bailey, and the 8 Carson City Kid, who I picked on top, are rematching out of the Just Right Mike race, that is, on May the 8th. We'll pick it up around the far turn, and the horse at this point you want to watch is Carson City Kid, and the Barber Silks is on the point. But Ronnie's top pick, the 2 Bailey, had legit trouble in this spot, in a good position per se, but things, if you don't have some room entering that far turn when they hit the bank of that far turn run, he clearly got shuffled back, and you would think, Ronnie, going forward, he wasn't as speedy as my horse, Carson City Kid, who's obviously still on the lead and will run second, but Bailey is supposed to raise his game this afternoon in his second career start.
Yeah, the barn, Juan Alvarado, how good have they been going with their 2-year-olds? They already have a trio of 2-year-old winners at the meeting. Had that little bit of trouble last time out, and that sort of separated me from the number 8 horse in here, Carson City Kid, who you do have on top of your ticket, and he ran okay in there. He's the number 1. You see him there on the inside, but I wanted to show a stat on trainer Mark Cassie, who trains that number 8 horse in here. 2-year-olds making their second career start, maiden special weight on the dirt. He's 18 for 96. That's 19%. So a very big sampling, 47% in the money, the $1.15, the return of investment. Just wanted to show that this was, his second start for Mark Katze, much better than his debuts, especially here at Gulfstream Park.
And Mark also has the another Gary Barber runner in the mix. It's amazing on just a sheer size standpoint. He might run the biggest racing operation in the United States, Gary Barber. I mean, he's got a gazillion horses. Mark setting out the 4, Captured the Candy, who's a gelding by Uncaptured, and debuting with jockey Victor LeBron, who's ridden very well. Let's move on to the third. We're off the turf. We'll rumble at a mile on the main track, and if you recall a few moments back when I was giving a little bit of a synopsis pertaining to my early pick 5, to me, this is a race where there's one true dirt horse in the 10, Tis Possible Deer, who not only is she a true dirt horse, she's been in good form, and I just like her in this spot over your top pick in the number 1 horse, Paint the Corners, who's probably the most talented horse. Can she do it on the dirt this afternoon with that surface switch?
Well, 'Tis Possible Deer, changing barns, going to the Ruben Cressida barn. Dual finished that second, as you mentioned, against those 8 claimers, going that mile on the main track. But the one, Paint the Corners, is drop it to the 12-5 level today and try and make it 2 in a row. Now, this one dual throughout and held on gamely to defeat those 16 claimers. Now, that was going a mile in the 16th on the turf. But how good has this barn been going? Mayoret Sancal, MSC Al Jaramillo in the saddle. That was my thought process. I agree with you with the 10, but this barn just going too good. Horses in good form. I left it on my ticket.
And I hear you. If there was another horse I'm using in that race, it's going to be Paint the Corners from the inside, just given her recent form on the grass, which I don't love in a race like this, but the hot barn would swing me in her direction, no question about it. So Ronnie and I just flipping the third. We'll see what shakes out moving forward. We'll take a little breather here on Gulfstream today and back after this quick timeout.
And they're off. Second in the 2 path. Ground off her inside. Race. Got a quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 on top. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
And we are back on this Friday edition of Gulfstream today with a look from that clubhouse turn, that turf course. It's taken quite a bit of precipitation, but you got to admit, it's in great shape, and it couldn't look any greener, lush, or verdant on this Friday afternoon. Now, 2 turf races will play their part, their respective parts, if you will, making up a third of the Jackpot Rainbow Six sequence this afternoon in that opening turf race, Ronnie. It's the 6th race. It'll go at about 2:40 Eastern, and we are all looking forward to getting back on the turf and hopefully a rain-free weekend as we move forward into a stakes-heavy weekend, in fact. 3 stakes tomorrow afternoon, Ronnie. I know you did your analysis, and there's another one coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, we got another one on Sunday. So 4 stakes over the weekend. We got the fillies on Sunday for $60,000. A couple of really nice races on the Saturday card.
Yeah.
10 races both Saturday and Sunday.
Definitely, and as far as the plot goes in the pick 6s here at GP, will we be playing for $2 million plus? We can guarantee that today with the guarantee. Does anybody take it down this afternoon for that 20-cent minimum as we move into our first full weekend in the month of June?
Well, they haven't done it yet. It's amazing how fast this built up to the $2 million jackpot guarantee. So you got a chance to take it down with this 9-race card. So you see the graphic there. It starts in race number 4. I'll show you my ticket. I have a $57.60 ticket, and I did go 4 deep in race number 4. This is one of the races, the only other race that is off the turf today. So I went 1, 5, 8, and 9 in there. The one is our Uncle Eric, who was entered to run on the main track, first-time starter in there. I like the 2 Bibiana today. That's my single this afternoon. I got a stat on that horse I'll show you for Jose D'Angelo, just a monster. First off the claim. 3 deep in race number 6. That is on the turf. I went with Azrael and Hero of the Hour and Over the Channel in there. And right back in race number 7, another head scratches. So I went 4 deep in there with the 2, 4, 5, and 8 in race number 8 this afternoon. I think the 8, what's inside on the turf, is strictly the one to beat in that spot. And race number 9, which is leg B in the Stronach 5, I like the 7, the Love Nest. I thought that horse ran exceptionally well last time out, but you got to use the Robin, and she takes hard as the 3. Wanted to put the 9 in there, but wasn't going over $100.
Was the 9 is that the horse coming in from Tampa who, much like Love Nest, won his last start by about 50 lengths?
No, that's the 7.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Love Nest is the 7, the 9
Nine,
horse.
yeah.
Is that Ariagatta's horse?
Yeah, that's Ariagatta's
Right.
horse. I didn't know what to do with that
Right,
horse.
coming in from Tampa Bay Downs.
Yeah.
It's interesting in that race, and we'll talk about it extensively in a few minutes here. You've got 2 horses combined between Love Nest and that, I think it's Candy Crush'em. Candy something for Ariagatta coming in from the West Coast, or the 8 Candy Cove, who won his last start by over 12 lengths. So there's 2 horses that won a combined margin of over 28 lengths last time out against that key rematch with the Robert. In looking at this opening leg of the Rainbow, Ronnie, at about 1:35 Eastern, and we're off the turf, as you said, in our final off the turf race, I think this race simply conflates to the presence of the experienced Sagamore Mischief, who I've got in the 2nd spot, who's just of the ones with experience, he's run pretty well, and he's got a number of seconds and 1/3 on his resume. It conflates to him knocking heads with what I think will be 2 likely very dangerous first-time starters. One of them, who you picked in the rail horse, our Uncle Eric, and the Danny Gargan firster with Paco, the number 8 Troubled Affair.
Well, the one our Uncle Eric entered for the main track to do just that today. This one from Georgina Baxter. What I like about this is the string of 5 furlong workouts. I like when I see that. You got a bullet from the gate last time out in 1 minute and 2. So I like when they run at the 5 furlongs to get them legged up for this type of racing here. So our Uncle Eric on top of my ticket. You mentioned the 8 Troubled Affair is the son of Munnings, debuting for Danny Gargan. Lasix also working well up at Palm Meadows, with Paco in the saddle. I thought those were logical, too. Gee, the 2, maybe I missed this horse a little bit. I should have given it a little more respect.
No, I hear you. This is the kind of horse you might just almost skip over just because he's had a bunch of chances. He's winless in 8 starts. To me, this race really distills down to an average first-time starter in a spot like this could be a handful for the 2 Sagamore Mischief. If the 1 and 8 are slightly less than average, maybe Sagamore Mischief has finally just backed himself into the right spot. That's the 4th race with, again, the 2 firsters against the 0-for-8 Sagamore Mischief. Let's move on to the 5th race this afternoon. We'll start the late pick 5, kind of an early bird late pick 5. Again, not too many 9-race cards around here at Gulfstream Park, but we have one today. And speaking of that 9th race finale, I was really confused with that spot. It's a real... Going in, it's a fascinating little puzzle and an interesting cross-section between, as I had mentioned a few minutes back, 2 horses combined that won their last starts by about 28 lengths, running against the 2 through 5 finishers of a much-talked-about race, including the 1 horse, the Robert, from Sunday, May the 9th. Now, moving from that race on to the 8th, I'm using the 2 class horses, and Ronnie, you had noted what's inside. He doesn't have to face Tiger Blood this afternoon, and clearly that is a big check mark and positive for him. 4 deep in the 7th. Out of all the races, I shouldn't say that. The 7th and 9th really confused me. That's why I've got 4 deep there. I used 2 in race number 6. I'm going with the class horses. Azrael, whose turf debut for Chad, now with Larry Ravelli, was a big effort. And I love the work Dave Fox has done with the 9 over the channel. And you would single Bibiana. And I think there's a couple of maybe chinks in the armor. But all in all, Ronnie, I look at this daughter of Stay Thirsty in today's 5th race, a 3-year-old filly restricted, $30,000 to $25,000 claimer. And although I don't love that Safi had claimed her for $50 right around Christmas and ended up losing her for $16,000 last time out, some 65 days ago, I still think the race she won for Safi and was claimed out of on April 2nd, I still think that's the real measuring stick to this field as a whole, and something close to that's probably going to beat this field.
Well, this one moved to the Jose D'Angelo barn after the claim. Steps up the competition. They drew clear, as you mentioned, that rate to defeat a trio of next out winners. So it was a very good race. That was that 16 maiden sprint going 5.5 furlongs. But here's the stat I wanted to show you. This is over the past year with Jose D'Angelo. First after the claim, sprints on the dirt. He's 6 for 14, 43%. He's in the money almost 80% of the time. And he still has that positive return of investment of $2.15. Coming out of a key race, Sammy Camacho atop this daughter of Stay Thirsty. I had to find a single somewhere to make my ticket affordable, and I think you can't go wrong here. If you make a B ticket, maybe you add the 1 Memento or the 5-1 Hot Drama, but for me, the race goes through Bibiana.
No, I saw the stats too, and clearly Jose's been on a good run with his limited starters, and you've got to respect the guy who's just been so adept this spring meet at just getting the money, not running all that many horses, and again, heading back to the barn with a race won. So I saw that. Again, claiming off Safi, don't love the fact that this horse is going to be a huge favorite. It's not like Jose, even with his big numbers, claim this horse off at 3% barn. We'll see with the 2 Bibiana. Memento for Kelsey Downer. You and I both have second. She's impressed me. She's been really good. Speaking of Jose picking his spots, I mean, Kelsey's really been great shipping horses in from Tampa and getting a good effort out of them recently.
Yeah, and this horse Memento kept a record at 6 furlongs unblemished when she shipped into the fairground from the fairgrounds into Tampa for Kelsey and won those defeated those 25 2 lifetime claimers with that 5 wide run. And as I mentioned, if Bibiana, if you put a B ticket together, I think you have to put Memento maybe somewhere on your ticket.
All right, let's get tied on. We head to the turf course. 2:40 Eastern, give or take, start time of race number 6. Again, a third of this $2 million guaranteed jackpot Rainbow Six will be contested over the GP Green. That does look like it's in terrific shape. And we've got a Florida bred and a good one, allowance optional claimer to start things out on the grass. And a race obviously led by the 8 Azrael. Different barn, but considering this was Azrael's only turf race to date back on March 27th in the lead up to the Curlin Florida Derby, I felt it was worthwhile to pull the replay of this colt by Cross Traffic, who was in against opens, got a good figure, and just again, Ronnie, I look at his 4 dirt races compared to this effort back on the 27th of March. He's a turf horse. This horse is obviously a very talented turf horse, potentially.
Yeah, you know, and I love the work that Larry Ravelli's doing. He did sharp, as you can see here, breaking his maiden, going that mile on the turf. He goes back to the grass. They're going to put blinkers on him this afternoon after showing that little bit of early interest in fading to fourth. That was going that 1-turn mile on the sealed, sloppy track. Victor LeBron will be in the saddle today. And just off that performance, I think it's the one to beat near. But there's a couple other ways you can go. We basically got to try a little bit flip-flopped in here with the 6 hero of the hour and the number 9 horse in here. I used in third, and that's Over the Channel.
Over the Channel, who really got good in a hurry for David Fox. I mean, from early October, he went from basically a nondescript, run-of-the-mill 20K maiden claimer in Miami Gardens to a horse on the cusp of banging out this Florida-bred restricted condition on turf. And as you know, these races come up pretty salty. I love the notion of taking a step back because he had done so much in such a short span, and they gave him a little bit of a break from late January through early April. He was up close to a very slow pace, but was beaten by another good Florida bred last time out. They ran 1-2 around the turf course in proven strategies. Figured it'd be a slightly higher price than Azrael, and I like the two class horses and the Louis Russell horse, who's got the big speed, the 6 hero of the hour. How good has this barn been? I mean, I really got to give credit. I don't know the man personally, but really admired this operation's work in the short, month and a half they've been running horses here at Gulfstream.
Yeah, we've mentioned this numerous times. Guys that come to South Florida for the first time, a lot of times trainers don't spot their horses in the right spot. He's been doing an excellent job, and this was debuting for Louis. And first start since reeling off back-to-back turf victories at the fairgrounds. That was during January and February. He's going to try these Florida state-bred runners today with Christian Torres in the saddle. So he's getting here against Florida breds this afternoon. I think he's got a nice shot in there.
Yeah, I'm with you, my friend. That speed, will speed be pretty good? Before we had that last batch of rain, inside pass and early speed were key components, I think, in looking at who did what and who was most successful on the turf. Does that continue this afternoon? Back on the main, meanwhile, for Friday 7th, the 6250 1-mile restricted claiming race. And, you know, just setting up the race, I think, to me anyway, this race distills down to the rail horse Well West and right next door the 2 Magical Mike for Safi. Both of those horses simply trying this trip against a level like this or competition like this on the dirt. The other camp is basically that 3-horse rematch from the Geonosis race back on May 17th. And the funny thing is, I don't know if my top pick, the 4 Red Fog, he might not be as talented as Little Mike or Magical Mike or the number 1 Well West, but distance, Ronnie. I looked at this race. I wanted horses going in, certainly on the win end than my exacta horses. I just was a little more confident in those horses staying this mile on the main track.
Well, Red Fog going to change barn today and go to the Bobby DeBona barn. Wheels back after track in the action that they finished 4th behind. Similar, they competed at this level in distance, so going to a pretty solid barn, and Victor LeBron in the saddle. But I did go with the horse you have in 4th on top, and that's the 2 Magical Mike.
I love that I called him Little Mike, by the way.
That sounds something like I would do.
He's not. Let me not mince words. This horse ain't no Little Mike, my friend, but he's got a big chance. And what do you like about him, Ronnie?
Well, he's going back to the dirt and drop it to this level after the clunker. That was against those 12-5, 2 lifetime claimers on the turf. Safi Joseph Jr., Paco Lopez handling the surface switch. This is the spot for this horse on the main track. Non-winners of 2 in life. I think he runs well in there. You mentioned Dardanello's coming out of that race. 5 wide second last time out with Louis Duco. And your horse, Red Fog, has a real reason to run well.
Yeah, no, again, I think the mile might be the real dividing line and who can get the distance and who maybe won't be able to get the distance. We'll see. But look, the 2 Magical Mike and the 1 Well West are new faces here trying this trip on the dirt. And in the case of the 1 Well West, I get the notion, or at least the optimistic side of the argument, that he could easily improve off a return race, which will bring you from a very sloppy, I think this was the day leading up. In fact, this was the day before that Monday Memorial Day card, and it was a wet weekend here with a very sloppy sealed track. And just considering Well West had only run once prior to this start, since the middle of December of 2018, I felt as though it was a replay worth pulling. He doesn't factor really at crunch time, but he was down inside at a time when it seemed like most of the riders deliberately were staying 3-4 pass off the rail. I think this horse is likely to improve today, Ronnie, for Ralph Nix. Again, though, my original argument, can he stay a mile on the main track?
Yeah, you know, dropping, I think this is, once again, drop it to the 6,250 level is a good spot for this horse here. I didn't give him as much respect as you did. Didn't have him on the ticket. I was sort of enamored with Magical Mike. We'll see how this race plays out. Once again, when you're putting that Rainbow Six ticket together, maybe you go and you stretch it out in this particular race. I know you went 4 deep.
The Gardners, Nicoletti Gardners here, or what, my friend?
Yeah, somebody's out there with one of those big blowers over there. I'm trying to get his attention, but it's not working.
Yep.
So.
All right, we're almost done. Let's get on to the 8th, second and final turf race on the card. Allowance optional claimer. The good news here for us is we might not have to spend all that much time on this race when you look at the presence of the 3 New York's finest, whose 5 furlong races on the turf speak for themselves, and the number 8, What's Inside, who's, man, has he gotten good for Jane Sibel, and he doesn't have to run against Tiger Blood here.
Yeah, I drop it to the 25 level again after following that second place finish behind, as you mentioned, that turf specialist, Tiger Blood, at this level, comes back, runs 4th behind him again, but that was at the $62,500 level. And if you could run anywhere near Tiger Blood when you're in for a quarter, I think you're the one to beat this afternoon.
I absolutely agree with that. Nothing more needs to be said. Let's wrap things up. finale here. 3-up, mile and a 16th, cast of 8. And an interesting race for this condition. You've got that bulky rematch. In fact, 5 horses, including the 2 through 5 finishers, are coming out of the nightcap here on May the 9th, and we'll roll that race. The horse you really, I think, want to watch is the number 1, the Robert. We've got 3 highlighted: Trapezoid, who Ronnie trimmed off his Rainbow 6 at the last minute, and the eventual winner with Joseph Trejos, and Are You Talking to Me? This was the overland route, the Belmont balcony sweep. I mean, however you want to sum it up, this was a ground lost trip and then some for the 1, the Robert, who in this rematch, Ronnie, I just wanted him coming back this afternoon picking up Paco.
Yeah, I think that's a logical contender. And as you mentioned, for the, Stronach 5, this being leg B, I really wanted to keep that 9 on the ticket, but I did go with Love Nest for Rashawn Creaky. Crushed those 62.50 claimers going a mile. Won that race by 15.5 lengths. Sort of hanging my hat here with the Robin in second, and She Takes Heart in third.
All right, we'll take a little breather here on Gulfstream today. Great job, Ronnie. We'll catch up with you before the first race, and we'll catch up with the man upstairs, Pete Aiello, for those Friday scratches and changes.